Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Sperber. I'm a realtor in the Northern Nevada housing market. And today I have a very special guest. I have with me Monica Sharpe with Sharpe Staging and Design. We've been anticipating
Hello.
this. So I know I talk a lot about how to list your home. I've even gone as far as to how to stage your home. And while I tour a lot of homes, I'm a realtor and I have an art degree. I'm by no means a stager. So I thought it would be really fun to have Monica here. If you guys want to follow her, we'll put this on the screen, but it's Sharpe, SHARPE dot staging and design. That's her Instagram handle. Is there anything else they should know about how to get in touch with you? And then we'll get rolling.
Instagram's a great place to start. So I think that kind of just leads into everything. So that's perfect.
Okay, cool. Well, enough about me. I just wanted to know kind of like the history of you and how you kind of
Yeah.
got into staging.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always loved design and decor, been rearranging furniture since I was a kid. I love to clean. But decided to kind of just go different routes. I didn't go that direction like I thought I would. So I've done a few different things. I've done property management. I was a real estate agent for a short time. I used to be a makeup artist. So I'm kind of a multi-passionate is kind of what I like to call it. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I just decided that it was just that itch. I just was like, it's the only thing I haven't done that I've always wanted to do. And it really, nothing fancy. I just decided after, I don't know, just to go for it. Honestly, really, just I've always wanted to get into styling and decor. And from my time in real estate, was really opened up to the world of staging and seeing so many different homes that I was like, I want to help people this way. So that's really it. I just decided to go for it.
Good for you. And I'm so sorry. I just had to let the dog out. We're being very informal with this video
That's
today.
okay.
She's like
Dogs,
pretty
kids.
demanding. Yes, we do it all. Monica's also a mother of how many? Four?
Four.
Four.
Yes, ma'am.
A lot of people don't understand. Like, I think a lot of us have this fantasy, right? Of like, I want to be a stager, I want to decorate, but like, there's so much more that goes into it. And even me, like with my fine art degree, I'm like, I can design things, I can picture things, but there's so much more that goes into like talk about the process. Like, what do you, from the time that somebody says, I want this home staged to like, here you go, it's done and ready for photos. Like, what goes into all of it for you?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some steps involved. So once you initially reach out to us, and it can be a real estate agent that reaches out to us or a seller directly. I will say we work mostly with agents directly. So once you reach out to us, we will kind of determine if the property is obviously vacant or if it's going to be occupied. And then we go from there. We will walk the property and get you a proposal and some numbers and kind of come up with a design plan, what the real estate agent kind of has in mind as well, a little bit for that home. And then we set that date. We like to get in a couple of days before photos. Staging takes about a day. We like to have that full day to execute everything. And then you guys are ready to get the photos done. So we like a little bit of notice to kind of coordinate everything, but the actual process when it gets closer is pretty quick. So we're here to
Like, do
help
you
agents.
like
Yeah.
keep everything in like a warehouse? Do you order it from places? Is it a mix? I'm just so curious. Like, I'm picturing
Yeah.
you have some like crazy garage situation.
So we have the garage. Everybody always starts in their garage with every business, right? Isn't it the kitchen table or the garage? We all start
As
there. So definitely
I
started
sit
in the
here at
garage.
mine. Yeah.
The garage, guest bedrooms, started kind of stashing stuff in there as well. So we have some storage in our garage, and then we are storage units. So we actually have storage units here in town, and then we're slowly looking to transition to a warehouse eventually as we are growing. So that is where all of our furniture and inventory is stored, and we own all of our inventory. So there's a lot of different ways you can do a staging business. We don't rent our furniture. We actually don't have a great rental market for furniture here where we live in Reno. So we own everything
Wow.
and it's kind of customized for the home. So that's a neat part of owning it. You have a lot of control over really making sure it's styled appropriately for the home we're doing. So, yes, we store it a little bit in the garage as much as I'm allowed. And then it's in units and then hopefully eventually warehouse here soon. So,
I think that I would be like, it would be so hard for me personally not to just be obsessed with like every time I went into a furniture store or home decor or even like
so
Hobby
hard.
Lobby, it would just be so dangerous.
It's hard. I really have to, as much as you think I would get tired of it, it's so hard. And online makes it really easy too. So even ordering on Amazon actually has some great stuff sometimes. Target, we get stuff at Home Goods, we get Ross. There's so many, you can buy wholesale. So you can get wholesale accounts as well as a stager. And there's a lot of places that we are able to get our furniture from. Even Facebook Marketplace, I have found some amazing pieces that were actually new on there. So that's kind of the fun part too, almost like researching, and finding just
Yeah.
places to get stuff. It's fun.
So you keep saying we, and I posted this reel the other day about how small business owners, we have this like proverbial we, but it's really just me. But like you work with your husband, is that right?
I do. I do. You
Right?
won't, you don't, yes, you don't see him too much. I would say if you guys check out my social media, it's pretty much, me and but I say we because he helps me so much. We do everything together. He's more behind the scenes, logistics, helping with installs, driving trucks. But
Would
yeah,
you
he kind
say
of
that
got,
like you're the brains and beauty and he's the brawn and what is that saying?
yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, you know what I'm getting at.
Yes, he's the muscle, and honestly, wouldn't be doing this without him and his support. So when I do say we, it is him, and there are times where he gets to a home before I do to start the install. So we make sure we let the client or the realtor know that. So it's definitely
They're not like,
he's
who's this guy?
who's this guy? Yeah. So it is. It's my husband and I, and we have help. We get help when we do installations, depending on the size and this, the scale. But yep. So
And I just wanted to mention that if you guys watch till the end, Monica's going to give her top 3 tips for sellers. So don't go anywhere. We have a lot to get through here. But I just want to keep you with us. So don't go anywhere because that's coming. But I wanted to ask you about staging in general. Like, when people should go all in, when is it super critical? Have you ever walked into a place and been like, just don't bother? Like, what is your take on that? I mean, I know as a stager, you always think it should be staged, but I mean,
yeah.
there are times like when I have to tell clients, hey, there's not enough meat on the bone. It's not the right time to list your home as much as I'd like to take your listing. Sometimes
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I always say every home, of course, should be staged. And to answer that, like sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be done, I guess, to the nines, because there's vacant staging and there's occupied staging. So sometimes, a seller, they can't move out, right? So there's a lot of variations when it comes to what we do. And we try our best to, tailor that to what's going on with the individual. But yeah, that's definitely something that we try to just accommodate where we can. And I would say every home should at least have that second set of eyes, like from a stager or a designer standpoint, to be like, hey, because you guys have enough to do as right.
We sure do.
so, so we're just there to help and kind of guide. And I don't like to say be the bad guy, but hey, we have someone else this is their lane. They're going to help you get this ready for market from that eye. And buyer psychology, like we're trained in that as well. So it's like we're coming in with that to help your sellers so that you kind of can take that off of your plate, I guess.
Yes.
It's more than just decluttering and telling your sellers to like remove their photos. And that's general, but we really come in like, I'm walking and seeing this, from those eyes. So that's definitely something that we try to do as well.
That's always like a conversation I try to have with sellers is like, you're not selling a house, you're selling a lifestyle. And you're so
Yeah,
good on like trying to think of who the most ideal buyer would be and like
sure.
how they would envision their life in your home.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's normal, right? Like we live in spaces, we occupy them, we
Yep.
become attached, we see them a certain way, but a fresh set of eyes, especially somebody who's trained in buyer psychology, that's amazing. Um, and I think I had on here, I'm just looking at my notes. You had some cool statistics and numbers about like the benefits of staging. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, a couple, I guess, that come to mind is, right. I guess even just going on the like online, I think it's like 90 to 95% of people right now, especially millennials, search for everything online. And so when that's the case, that's where they're seeing everything. So that's photos, right? So if these photos aren't really jumping out at them, or it's a vacant, or it looks the same as everything else, that's where staging can really set your home apart, your listing. That's huge. So everything's done online. 95% of people right now are shopping online. And then just the statistics can go on for days, but in general, a big one that is homes that are staged sell faster and they sell for more money. And that's been proven. So, I always like to say, yes, every home eventually sells. But
Sometimes.
yeah, I mean, yes, right? Like, sure,
Yeah.
it's yes. But man, wouldn't it be nicer to have it sell a little quicker, or get more eyes on it, get more offers, which can drive up the price? There's so many things that I feel like are just good to have that conversation with the sellers, so they're at least educated on it, right? I think that's a big part. So a lot of statistics, and maybe that's a bonus we can throw in, is some extra fun statistics for people so they can really see kind of, the benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, like if we think about new construction, especially like production builders, like your Toll Brothers, your Lennar, your Genuine is a local
Yeah,
production builder here, but there's a reason that they make their model homes just drool worthy. I mean, they put in, 200,000,
that's a great point.
$300,000 worth of upgrades if you're looking at Toll or whatever.
Yeah,
But
and you don't go look at a model home vacant, right?
no,
Usually. So that's a great point, Sarah. That's a great point.
they understand that, like, and I see it because I have to when I bring buyers through the new construction model complexes, I always have to have this conversation in the beginning of like, this is going to be the pretty shiny object, and
Yeah,
you have to understand that like what you get looks literally nothing like this, and if they end up like falling in love, I always make sure that we go look at a home in production that's the same model, because when you see it, even if it's
yeah,
complete and you're just seeing like, a
yeah,
completed vacant home or even at like various stages, just make sure they see it with like drywall at least, because it's so different. And
sure.
some of the upgrades that they offer, or like, sorry, some of the upgrades that they show, you can't
Yeah,
even get.
yeah, that's absolutely true. It is. Yeah.
What about like do nots? We're gonna get to those like top three tips for sellers at the end, but do you have any
Okay.
like, things people should avoid, things that you see, common mistakes? I mean, I could tell you a few things just from looking at a lot of people's homes, but I'm not the expert.
Well, yeah, no, and I think it comes down to, I think that's kind of where like the tips come in too, because it depends if the seller really is like, I'm going to stage this myself. I think there's probably a lot of, faux pas that they probably could run into. I think one of the biggest things, and this could just be realtors and sellers, is really skimping and going like too partial, if that makes sense. So you're, you know, just sticking like a chair in the corner with a plant, and you kind of are, or, oh, I just want to do this one space. That's really just doing a disservice to, everything, right? So I think that's a big thing. It's like really just not going all in if you decide to stage more on the vacant side, I guess I would say,
Would you
is
say
really.
at that point it's almost like better to not stage at all?
I mean, if you, yeah, like I would honestly, yeah, it's in a sense, it would be like just, yeah, just don't, because
Or
then
maybe
that's
like
not,
leave the bedrooms, but like at least fully stage the common areas, right? I see that a
yes,
lot.
yeah, 100%. That's the most common. So those key areas: living space, kitchen, a dining, and like a primary bedroom. That's like when you work with us, that's going to be what I'm going to recommend. And kind of, we don't really do less than that. It's just, it doesn't look cohesive. It's choppy. It's like, why did you do that? Not that.
Yeah.
The other rooms, I think majority of folks can figure out what the third and fourth bedroom, it's really those main spaces that sell a home. It really is, where people congregate the most, the living space. How do you, if there's an like a space that's maybe harder to picture, like maybe, I don't know if this could be an office or a dining room. So that's really where staging comes into play too.
lifestyle cues, right? Goes back to the idea
Yeah,
of, like, who's going to occupy this home? Who's the most likely buyer? And that maybe is a way that like you could partner with a realtor too and just get market data for that. Like now we have access to so many cool
I
tools
know.
for pricing listings and stuff, but you can look at like so many demographics to predict who is
Yeah,
going to be likely to buy. You can look at like income levels, you can look at all kinds of stuff. So that would maybe be helpful to know because then you're like, "Oh, this is definitely gonna be like a millennial buyer." Or,
absolutely.
like and
And
there's different cues that are gonna come from that. Like, I mean, I don't know, but I think a lot of millennials now work from home or have some kind of like hybrid office homework. I mean, I think
absolutely.
people in general, but uh,
Yeah, that's a great point. That's good. That's true. And I think that's something we try to do is not cookie cutter staging. We really do try to tailor it to that home, that area, that demographic, that neighborhood. Who is going to be living here? Is it a family with kids? And then we kind of let the home speak to us as well, for lack of a better word, right? Like it is very yeah, there's a lot of attention to detail with that. It's not like, all right, whatever, just throw a couch in here. No, it's, there's a lot of thought, and there's a lot of, it goes into just because that's how you're really going to appeal and attract that buyer. That's like this, I see this, right? I can picture myself here.
I love this. You guys, this is why I love Monica because if you've ever talked to me about listing your home or if you ever plan to, one of the main things that I emphasize in my listing presentation is that like your home has a story and the whole idea behind marketing, powerful marketing is storytelling, right? It's not just buy this, sell this, do this. It's like creating this whole vision, right? And I feel like you need to have an agent who's going to partner with somebody like Monica who can actually paint the picture and articulate the vision and the story for the home so that
Yeah.
it sells. I mean, that really is what works. So,
And that's like amazing that you do that, because that shows, I feel like, your sellers that you're really just, it's all encompassing. You're really trying to make sure that everything's, you know what I'm saying? You want it all to be done for them, that this is just as important as the photos are just as important, right? It's all part of marketing. And I think a big thing is separating that out for sellers. Like, the way that you live in your home and the way that you market and sell your home are completely different. And I think that's really, it's sometimes tough because somebody's lived there for 40 years, right? It's not easy. And like, I know that moving is not fun. Okay. Like it's not. Selling your home, it's stressful. It is one of the most stressful things. So it's like, it's just about, I think, really, I just always go back to education. The more they know, and right, like,
yeah. Yeah. So, statistically, to piggyback on that, aside from death in the family and divorce, I think it is buying and selling real estate are life's most stressful moments. Like, this
I
is,
didn't know that. I actually just read that the other day. I did not know that real estate, like buying and selling, was actually in that category of, divorce. And I was like, that's pretty stressful.
it really is. And you know what? I think, yeah, I see it every day and yeah, you have to really be careful, especially when you're working with a seller who has lived in a home for 40 years. Like there's so much sentimental
Emotion.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not easy to be like, "Oh, I don't like that," or like that needs to go or that looks cluttered because you're going to end up offending them. So you have to be really gentle with your input sometimes. I had a train of thought that I was on and now it's departed. Okay, well we can move on to this. So you had talked about on the do nots, don't skimp or like don't halfway stage. One thing that we had talked about was like an occupied stage. So
Yeah.
somebody did want to kind of like save some money. Most people are going to be
Sure.
skimping because they're trying to save, right?
Right.
So let's talk about occupied staging. There
Yeah.
it
And
is.
that
I
was
landed
more
the
like,
plane.
yeah. And that was more, I think, just in a staging as a whole, just seeing, those photos of a random chair in a corner, and I think that was like, no, you gotta, but to occupied, yeah, just, it's, it's great because we really try our best to utilize what the seller has. And I think that's something that is, helps save them as well when it comes to cost. We're really coming in there to just try to like highlight all those features and really just freshen things up. And we try, like I said, try our best 90-95% of the time. We try to utilize what that seller has. It might just need to be rearranged so that there's a better flow, moving artwork around. So And sometimes we'll bring a few things in, but that's, occupied is let's just change it a bit is all.
Okay. And that leads me to the question that I lost a minute ago.
Yeah.
So when you stage a home, typically it's either like occupied, like using what they have, uh,
Yeah.
or it's vacant and you're bringing in things that you
Yeah.
have. Now, what does it look like if a seller hasn't really moved out yet, but they want you to stage like with all your things, your pieces? Can they live in
Yep.
the house with your belongings?
Yes, we do offer that, and there's certain stipulations with that. So some sellers, once they kind of it is case by case. Some sellers are like, no, I don't want that liability in a sense, but we have and we can. So it just it really does depend. But yes, we can bring in. You have an extra room or a bedroom or a sitting room that needs. We can bring in those extra and additional items and stage the home that so that it's great for photos. Another thing we can do is if they're worried about certain things, we could stage it for the photos and then we can kind of remove some of those like pieces that they may be more worried about. So it's really all about getting the photos too, which is great. But so there's options, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So when you are working on a staging project, like you probably have to be in close communication with not just the realtor, but also the seller then, because you're going to have to coordinate with them for access. And then these details of like, do you have four kids? Do you have dogs? Like, what am I leaving here? Like, so it's kind of like a bigger conversation.
It is. There's a little bit more involved with occupied staging. The process is there's just a few more steps. We start those out actually with a like a consultation. So we'll do what we call like a walk and talk where we come, usually the agent's there as well, and we just walk the home with the seller and we get to know them and get a lay of the land. We kind of tell them to take some notes. And we as well can take notes and get them some. So there's some options there, but that's really the first step. And then the seller usually will implement or change a few of the things that were like, hey, recommend doing this or that. If you guys want us to come back and stage, you just need to do those things first in a way, if that makes sense. So the other side of that is sometimes that's all that's needed, Sarah, is sellers are kind of DIY, some of them.
Yeah.
And they're like, they just want that guidance. And we don't come back and stage. We just tell them, move your couch here. You need to and it'll be detailed. I can tell you which mirror to put. Do you know what? So we get very detailed for sellers so that they really, we recommend getting a few extra items. So there is we're just really there to help.
And for
And
buyers
yeah,
and homeowners too, that's a service you offer, right? Is like just interior design consultation, right? So if any of you have bought a home from me recently, which many of you have, she can also come over and be like, well, here's what needs to go here, and you need this moment over
yes,
here. Or if you have a bunch of stuff, she can help you arrange it in a way that's
yes,
good feng shui, right?
yes. Yes, I love that. So more on the styling side, really, yeah, if somebody needs help with that, or they're like, gosh, I don't know what to do with this office or this kids room transition, we absolutely do that and do consultations for that. And yeah, absolutely. It's just another fun avenue of the job.
Stuff you're good at.
Yeah.
So a lot of these questions I'm asking Monica came from, I put on my my Instagram. We're on YouTube. My Instagram story, any questions you would have for a stager. So a lot of them were pretty like general staging things, but I did have
Huh.
one specific and I would love your opinion
Okay.
on this. So during the COVID times,
Yeah.
obviously the housing market boomed, we all know, because the rates were super low. There was this trend wherein everything was like in the gray palette: flooring, cabinets, paints, like everything. And I've like read so many things, and I think the person who asked this has probably seen similar, like, gray is over, do not do it, it's passe. So I just would love like a professional opinion. And I say that as like, we did that, look at my flooring, it's gray. We bought this house in 2021 and promptly made all the flooring gray. So please tell me that was a bad choice.
Oh gosh. I think everything comes and goes. I want to say, I think there's certain things that come down to taste. Like I just don't like that or I don't care for that. I, it's kind of the same with fashion almost. Like everything kind of always comes back around, right? It's like that wasn't cool then, but now it's cool again. I do feel like there was a time that was big. Gray, yeah. I would say I still think it can be done. I just think it was on an overkill for a while. And there are times that the home, like say we're staging a home, and it might really be like I got to kind of go that way a little bit, like because of maybe the paint or the way the flooring is. You kind of try to pull, and you kind of offset it. But gosh, I don't want to say that it's bad or like I don't know.
Don't
It's kind of
offend
one of
anybody.
those.
It's okay. You can talk about mine. Tell everyone. Sarah made a bad design choice in 2021. It's fine. No, not great,
Yeah, well,
but it's
it'll come back. It'll come
yeah,
back.
right. I'll wait for my gray moment to reemerge.
Yes, it's just all whatever's trending, right? I think that was so trending for a while, just like the farmhouse style was trending if we get into like the
Yeah.
design side. But
I don't think that'll ever go away for me. I love the farmhouse.
I know, I do too. I will say I did have a small stint because everyone talks about like, not having the word art. I know that's a big state. Okay, so that's a staging faux pas. Let's not we can't
So
be
are we
having the word
talking,
art.
sorry, but the word art, are we talking the like live, laugh, love
Yeah.
stuff? We
Live,
don't want
laugh, love. Yes, like eat here, kitchen, like so that is one of, I guess, now back to one of your questions, a faux pas for staging. We don't bring those items in that say that and hang that, right? So, but it's so funny because I mean, I know I've had them. I did.
people have them. That's a thing. I see them often. I actually toured a very expensive, very beautiful, very much
You
farmhouse
see some
design.
amazing homes,
Yeah,
I
and
bet.
it was very heavy and it was staged and it was very heavy on the word art. I
Well, I
actually
mean,
didn't even
to
need it.
each his own. To each his own.
As long as it's not live, laugh, love, right?
Yeah, we'll take that down if we see live.
Do you have any essential products or anything that like you as a stager can't live without?
Ooh. Um, Products like on the furniture side or
Just
like
like if you could name your top 3 things that like maybe you have staples that go in like I know every home is different, but do you have like
okay.
3 things that you just couldn't live without?
Okay, so I would say it would definitely have to be gosh, when I'm like styling blankets and pillows. Like I really don't know what I just I can you can never have too many blankets and pillows. And then you can definitely overkill on this, but I would say plants. Plants, pillows, blankets, those are just I can never get enough of. And then vases. I definitely have a thing for vases. Those are like just staples and they're so universal and you can use them in so many different ways. So those are like just staples on like the decor side. And then big staples would be you got to have some good accent chairs and just a good couch like that can be used a few different ways. That's big.
Yeah, totally see that. Um, and you guys stay with us because we still have those top 3 tips that she's going to give at the end. Can we touch on some pricing?
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
I know that it's going to depend on square footage and
Sure.
you have to haul stuff up 7 flights of stairs that might have an impact on price. But
Yeah.
just to give people an idea of what they're looking for or looking at as far as pricing.
Yeah. So I would say for the most part, I think in general, staging does vary. Every stager, I think, does things a little bit differently. And like I mentioned earlier, we are really starting to kind of hone in on like a minimum, it's those living spaces, the kitchen, those type of things. And we have minimums and, staging starts anywhere from like and it's in the 2000s and up is you're going to look at staging. It's just anywhere from there and up, and there is it does depend again on the home. It really is so specific. We don't have like set price lists because again there could be 7 flights of stairs or we have to drive a certain amount, so it is case by case, but there still are parameters. And so I would say a great starting range to know is that you're definitely going to be spending upwards and starting, in the high 2000s to really start the process of staging. So, but you have to look at it as an investment, not an
Because
expense.
$2,000 worth of staging, or probably closer to $3,000 worth of staging, might yield you 2 to 3 weeks of shorter days on market, and it might yield you like ten to $20,000 more in net
It
proceeds.
could.
So
Absolutely.
it just depends on your price range, and not every price range. I don't always recommend that. Like if you have like a starter home, maybe you don't, need to fully stage something like that. But if you have like a luxury listing, more often than not, that's going to be advised, right?
Sure. Sure.
I wanted to, let's see, I think we're kind of coming up on the end. Oh, well, I did have a note here that you do offer consultations for $200 to $300, and that's more
Yep.
for the occupied staging. So if you are somebody who is more of a DIYer, you just kind of want her input. What is that? Maybe like 30-minute consultation where you come in and just give them pointers?
So
What is
those
that?
are for any and all occupied. So if you're like, hey, we have a listing coming up, sellers are going to be living there, they're going to be occupying it. They all start the same, and it ranges from $200 to $300, and we try to. It's usually about a minimum of an hour is kind of the goal to
Oh,
go. We go room by room. We want to really see everything in the outside, and we're giving recommendations from recommend changing the paint color to everything. And we actually, as of right now, give sellers like a report. So they can take some notes. They have an option there. That's kind of why there's a little bit of a price difference. They can take some notes, but if they want, we'll go ahead and write up a report for them. The agent can get a copy, and it's very detailed. So sometimes it might be a little overwhelming, but we just want to give as many options, and we go room by room. So any occupied home, if you want us to come in, we start with that consultation, and it's a minimum of an hour, and we're going room by room and walking it with the seller so that they really have a good idea of what they need to do to get everything ready for listing.
and that is invaluable, you guys. I mean, $200 to $300 for that alone is such a steal, really. I mean, obviously, the hope is that from there, they're like, actually, I don't want to do all this myself, right? But
Yeah, I mean, it's it's sometimes, I would say more often than not, we do come back to stage. But again, sometimes they're like, this was great. We're going to go ahead and implement this and give it a go. So, and we're available for questions if they need some help after that, if they decide they just kind of want to do everything. But some people, yeah, like they want to do it. They want to, kind of move everything around themselves. So
there you
that's
go.
what's nice too,
God,
that they're, yeah.
really just going crazy out here. Okay, come on.
So that is nice
Everybody,
that there's that
full floor
option
here.
too. So,
Definitely.
and
Let's
that's sometimes all that's needed. Yeah. That's just sometimes too, like that's sometimes all that is needed is just a really great consultation for those sellers. I heard of a stager, I forget, just through my, scrolling, I'm sure. And that's literally the bread and butter of her business is just consultation. So a lot of avenues with staging, which makes it fun.
totally. Well, that's really great information. And before we run out of time, you guys have been super patient if you've stayed this long. So, without further ado, we're going to have Monica give you her top 3 staging tips for sellers. These can also be applied if you're a homeowner looking to, enliven your space or refresh, or, if you just bought a home and you're like, what do I do? Maybe this
Yeah.
would be helpful to you. So, take it away, Monica.
Okay, so three tips, and I kind of mentioned one of these secretly earlier, but really focusing, because it can be overwhelming sometimes where to start, especially if you have kids. Or um, one of my recommendations is to really focus on the main spaces. So really, your living space, your kitchen, and the dining, I guess, if that's an area that you have homework all over, and that's kind of a spot. Really, those main spaces, and the primary bedroom. So primary bedroom and living room are huge. That is where we spend a lot of our time, and buyers really start nitpicking with like, can this fit here, can this go here? So focus on the main living spaces. How the living room is laid out. Do we need to change a few things? How can we brighten it up? Can we neutralize it? Which leads me into the second thing, is keeping everything neutral. So, and some of these things aren't going to break the bank. Neutral bedding, one of the biggest faux pas, I would say, is just can be very distracting in a photo, is really just not neutral bedding. buy a white comforter and get some white neutral pillows and it really helps to just neutralize that space and let buyers kind of not be as distracted by really bright red
Floral.
colors that are, yeah, floral. So something like that is a really quick thing you can do. And you could even just throw it on for showings if you wanted to, right? So yeah, that's a really big thing is neutral bedding in the primary bedroom. And then this one is talked about a lot, I would say. I think people kind of know this is to depersonalize. And I feel like it gets talked about a lot, but it really is, you've got to make it so that it really can appeal to those buyers. And that's
The buyer
depersonalizing.
can picture themselves in
Yeah,
space and not be like, oh, look at all these
I
kids
know.
memories. And yeah, it seems obvious. And yet it's one of the biggest things I see out when showing.
It
So
is. And sometimes it comes down to just a little bit of too much. Less is more. So sometimes it's family photos and sometimes it's depersonalizing just a few of the things that maybe you love crosses and you have a ton of those everywhere. So it's really just depersonalizing and simplifying. So just keep thinking less is more. And if you're planning on moving anyways, pack it up in a box and just know that that's what you have to, that's just going to be that much more helpful when you're trying to list your home, especially with photos. It's all about less distractions and really helping those buyers focus on the actual home itself. And highlighting those features. So focus on those main living spaces. Yes, the other bedrooms it's all important, but people know that people have kids and, really focus on your living space and your bedroom, honestly, your primary bedroom. Simplify, minimalize.
all right, you guys, we got
Okay.
cut off because we had a little technical difficulty. So if there's like a glitch in the video, sorry about that, but we're back. Monica was on her third of the three tips for sellers if you're going to DIY it. We were talking about getting rid of personal items, photographs, anything that doesn't fully enable the buyer to picture themselves and envision their own life in your space. We got
Yeah.
cut off there. I don't know if you wanted to add any more to that, but he's also going to give you guys another bonus one, which is
Yeah, we just had a couple of those tips. Just focus on those main living spaces. Really, those are key. Some neutral bedding is huge in those bedrooms. And then depersonalize, we said. And last, kind of along the line of not bedding, but uh, in the living room, doesn't matter what kind of couch you guys have, go get some brand new pillows. It will change the look of the whole room. Get some fresh, clean pillows on those couches and a couple of fresh blankets that are, again, neutral. It'll just make everything kind of pop. The couches, again, you would be amazed at what pillows and some throw blankets can do for a living space. And it won't break the bank. So go get yourself some brand new pillows before those photos.
laughing right now because I literally, like, I would show you guys, but it's messy over there. I literally just did that. Like the other day, I don't know what possessed me, but I was like, I need new.
New
I think I had toured, like, this happens. This is like one of the curses of being an agent.
You
I had
see all
gone to,
these beautiful homes.
yes, I had spent a day touring new construction with buyers, and we had looked at like all the beautiful model homes. This happens every time I come home from
You
these.
come home.
I hate it here. Like I hate my house. I need to
Oh,
make
it's
it
horrible.
nicer. And like my poor husband and children, they're like, God, why does it have to be so clean all the time? And I'm like, well, A, I'm mentally ill, but also B, like I need it to look like a showroom. It has
Yeah,
to look like a model house.
we can't let anyone know we live here. $200 later at Home Goods, you got your new pillows, and it's so funny. I'm kind of the same way though. So,
I
but
bet.
got to do it.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to add? This has been so fun, but if there's
I
any,
know. Thank you so much for having me. And I just know there's a lot of changes going on in the real estate world for you guys, and just we're here to help. And seriously, like that's kudos to you. I couldn't do what you guys do, or I did, and it didn't last very long. So seriously, you guys do so much more than people realize, and it's a really hard job being a realtor. And we just kind of want to help how we can along the way and make it easier, for you and your clients. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for having me. Seriously.
and if you guys want to reach out to Monica, we'll have her info on the screen here when this goes through our final edit. But follow her on Instagram. You can shoot her a DM. I'm sure all her contact info is in her bio there. So if
Yep.
you need staging or if you need to list your home, I can help you with that. And I can help you and Monica connect on the back end of that whole deal. So maybe all three of us can work together. If you guys have any other questions about real estate staging, but buying and selling in general, you guys can reach out to me. There's a link to do that in the show notes below. It's totally free, no obligation, just a chance to connect, see if we're a good fit to work together. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like and that subscribe button. I put out new videos every single week about the Northern Nevada lifestyle, the Reno Sparks housing market, and of course, all things to do with buying and selling real estate. So thank you guys so much for watching. And thanks again, Monica. We sure loved having you here. And if you guys have follow-up questions, shoot them over to her on Instagram about staging because she would love to be in touch with you.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
All right, you guys, we'll see you next time. See you next week.
All righty.
All
Bye.
right, bye-bye.